benefit fully from this talim. Assalamu alaikum. Yeah, alhamdulillah.
How you doing?
Alhamdulillah, good.
No, put the mic stand on the don't take this from you. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. That is with Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. Dear brothers and sisters, assalamu alaikum. We're getting adjusted to this new technology here. We're trying to come into the 21st century with everybody else. All right, what we have is a very, very special program today. If I can have one of those green and one of the whites as well. What we're going to have today is a presentation of the Shahadatain Institute. The Shahadatain Institute is a new project at Masjidul Waritheen that we have recently completed enough to open up. There's much to be done about it because it really is a total articulation of the first pillar of Al-Islam, which is the declaration that there is no God but Allah and that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And there's much to be said about that. So what we've decided to do is to have a sort of infomercial, you might call it, where I'm going to speak for the first maybe 5 or 7 minutes or so to introduce you to the concept and to the ideal. And we're really focused on our television audience because we want now them to know that now we're ready to invite you in to learn and to study about Al-Islam in a non-threatening environment where you can just come and sit down and speak to someone who recognizes you as a new person who simply needs to learn a little more about the religion. I'm not trying to get into the heavy stuff, just let me know what the basics of the religion are and what does it take for me to really live my life in Al-Islam. So Shahadatain primarily is designed to give that firm foundation, to give that orientation to anyone, whether their direction is to become Muslim or whether they just simply want to learn about Al-Islam. I've had interviews with reporters and I've had interviews with students who are working on theses and various papers on Islam and black religion and all those kinds of things, and they usually come to ask the basic questions about what is Al-Islam and how long has it been here and what does it mean to this ethnic group and that ethnic group. So now those persons can literally come to the class and speak to the teachers and have their questions answered for them in a very non-threatening, a very friendly, aesthetic environment. The Shahadatain Institute, I want to let you know what its basic mission is. The Shahadatain Institute is on the mission, we would say, to invite humanity to the faith being Al-Islam, to witness the declaration of faith, to welcome new Muslims to the Masjidul Waritheen Ummah, and to foster an environment that will enable the soul to fulfill its oath to Allah. As Imam Ali before me has been explaining about the 5 pillars of Al-Islam, the first pillar is to declare there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. And we actually have the good fortune today, as Allah would have it, we have an individual in our audience who's going to be taking the Shahadatain today, and she's going to have the blessed opportunity to set a precedent for our entire TV audience. So this is going to be a wonderful occasion. So we thank Allah for putting it in our heart to accept Al-Islam, and then we have the opportunity to live and in person have them to witness a person making this declaration, inshallah. Now, the foundation, really the last line of our mission statement says the heart, expresses the heart of what Shahadatain and the Shahadatain Institute is about. Maybe I should even begin with the word shahada means witness. That phrase, that term means shahada, that's witness. Shahadatain means, tain means two. In the Arabic language, when you see that at the end of a word, it means that it's to something. So shahadatain is I'm witnessing 2 things. The first thing that we witness is there is no God but Allah. The second thing that we witness is that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. So when a person takes shahadatain, they're saying, I agree with these 2 things, and that's the declaration. And then the process of learning and building their faith to become mu'min, to become believers, having full faith in their faith, that is what follows after taking Shahadatain. And the object of Shahadatain is to get that person into that flow, and the object of the Shahadatain Institute is to facilitate that evolution. The last line of our mission statement says that to enable the soul to fulfill its oath to Allah. There's a verse of the Quran, the 7th chapter and the 172nd verse. The English translation is, when thy Lord, meaning God, when thy Lord drew forth from the children of Adam, from their loins, their descendants, and made them testify concerning themselves. This testify means shahada. Testify, or that is translated Arabic, shahada. Made them testify concerning themselves, saying, am I not your Lord? This is God talking to the souls of the children of Adam. Am I not your Lord who cherishes and sustains you? They, the souls of the children of Adam, you and I, have already addressed, God has already addressed our souls, and he's already asked us the question, and our souls have already said, yea, we do testify. Then the verse goes on to say, this lest ye should say on the day of judgment, of this we were never mindful. And we conclude the reading of the Quran with surely Allah the Most High speaks the truth. So this verse is actually, it's telling us that our souls have already told God, you are my God. When our souls, which precede this body, and when it enters this body as of our birthday, the birthday that we know, or as of inception, I should say, or 40 days after inception, I got to talk to the technicians out there. After that, when Allah breathes the spirit into that morsel, the soul had been here before. Not here, pardon me, forgive me. Astaghfirullah. God forgive me. The soul had existed before. And now the body embodies the soul. This body is a carriage for the soul. And the soul, from the time of our birth into this physical existence, has been struggling to express itself over the pull and over the drive of the body to cause our attentions to go elsewhere. But when a person takes Shahadatain, when they finally come to the point, against all of the things that challenge that declaration, and when they can say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, it is the declaration of the soul saying, I know what I'm here for. I know what's correct. I know what's proper. I bear witness. There is only one God. And the testimony of Muhammad, that is to say, I bear witness that Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, it is saying, and it was Muhammad that told me this. It was Muhammad that brought this message. It was Muhammad that was the channel through which God revealed his will to us, and I bear witness Muhammad is not a liar. I bear witness Muhammad is not a soothsayer. I bear witness Muhammad is not a false prophet. I bear witness that Muhammad is really the one that's bringing the news from this one and only God. That's where the freedom begins. I'm free. I'm free from the other things. Now the learning starts. How do I act now that I made this declaration? Now what am I supposed to do? That's what the Shahadatain Institute is about. With that being said, we're going to have the first of our 4 testimonials today. We're going to hear from individuals who themselves have made this declaration that I've talked about, and they have also been one of some of the principals who have worked on building this Shahadatain Institute. The first person that I'm going to call forth for her testimony is Sister Najia Agard. And Najia Agard is going to be responding for your information, how she came to Al-Islam and what the Shahadatain Institute means to her. So I give you now Sister Najia Agard. You can just leave those there for me.
Okay. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Ash'adu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ash'adu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. Assalamu alaikum. Well, I have to tell y'all my story, right? As you know, my name is Najia Agard. I'm a member of Masjidul Waritheen. And I was raised a Christian in a big, fun family and attended Baptist church. As a child, Christianity didn't feel right in my heart and my soul. And I would go to church. I love the music, still do, just change the words around a little bit. And I would listen to the minister. I would also read the Bible. And the Bible said a lot of things. One of the things was that thou shalt have no other God before me. But then when I would listen to people talk and listen to the minister, I would be told that you have to pray to Jesus in order to get through to God. That was not logical to me. Then I realized over a period of time as I got older that I would sit there and I'd love the music, and you'd really get into the music. Then the minister would start talking and you couldn't understand what he was saying. People get to rocking, and anyway, I was not motivated by that to do anything, with my life with reference to really being right. As a teenager, I read about the Nation of Islam and their doctrine, of which a lot of you know about, and I won't go into it. But what I did read, the basic information, also didn't make sense to me. It wasn't logical that our God, our Creator, would create a group of people that would be superior to another group merely because of the color of their skin. So I just lived my life. And in my later years, in about 1978, I ran into a group of Muslims that I tried to run from. It's like, no, I know about you people. I don't want to have anything to do with it. But they told me, wait, listen, things have changed. We are practicing the orthodox religion of Islam. So I listened to them, and more so, I read the Quran for myself. And what I found is that my soul came to a state of peace, a state of rest. And I learned that Islam, Al-Islam, is a religion for all people. I was and am motivated to be the best that I can be. I am thankful to Allah for blessing me with this religion of peace. Thank you so much for listening. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. I forgot one of the questions. The Shahadatain Institute. What that means to me is that it is an opportunity to help earn some blessings by helping to teach those that are new to the religion and interested in the religion, the proper religion of Islam. I mean, we can go a lot of places and learn from different people things that may or may not be exactly correct. So the Shahadatain Institute is an opportunity to correct some of the wrong things that have existed for whatever reasons. It helps to foster a better and stronger family here, not only at Masjidul Waritheen, but in the community at large. So it's an opportunity to just really take this and make it what it should be, which is wonderful and peaceful, and that's my answer. Thanks again. Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah, thank you very much, Najia. And Alhamdulillah means all praise is due to Allah. Some of our Christian brothers and sisters say praise the Lord. Whenever, something good happens, they praise the Lord. Well, literally, we're saying the same thing. We're saying Alhamdulillah. We're saying all praise is due to God. We just say it in the Quranic Arabic language. Frankly, there's much more that Christians and Muslims actually have in common than some Muslims and the rest of the world would lead you to believe. Some people make you think that Christianity and Islam are just inveterate, natural-born enemies and predators. No Christian should love a Muslim, and no Muslim should love a Christian. But I have so much evidence that is quite contrary. In fact, the Quran says the nearest to you in love are the Christians. This is what God says to the Muslims in their holy book, the Quran. The nearest to you in love are the Christians. So how can a Muslim take a totally antagonistic view toward Christianity? Plus, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he in his sayings or hadith, he says that the nearest to Jesus Christ is me. I'm the nearest to Jesus Christ. And he says, in the end, I and Jesus Christ will be together. So that's why we have the Shahadatain Institute. It's those kinds of things that we help to clear up in terms of what al-Islam is or is not. Might I have the green piece and also the other white sheet passed out to everyone in the audience? Because all I'm going to do is we have this form that we'll be giving to the public so that they can get an idea of some of the times and events that we have in the Muslim community here at Masjidul Waritheen, and also to let them know what the Shahadatain Institute is and how they can benefit from it. So the Shahadatain Institute, we've already told you what its mission is. The Shahadatain Institute is also a full-service Islamic institute which also offers an 11-week certificated Islamic orientation course for any new or non-Muslim interested in al-Islam. Any new Muslim or any individual that's interested in al-Islam, you can come to the Shahadatain Institute, participate in the 11-week course, and get all your initial questions answered regarding what al-Islam is in this world, in America, and the like. So we hope you would join us for that. Some of the topics that are going to be covered in this 11-week course are common phrases and terms, just like we're trying to be conscious, more so now. We get this feedback from our listeners and in the television audience. We're getting better, that on some occasions we will make these Islamic phrases and statements, and well, what does that mean? You know, so it's like we throw a big blank into the conversation when we say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and they say, well, what was that? You know, and what that is may the prayers and peace of God be on him. You know, even well, we say in the South, because I think we still tie so much of the traditional values to our Southern upbringing, and that someone may say, my blessed mother, God rest her soul. You know, my granddaddy, God rest his soul. It's like you want to say something that accords respect to the value of that person because of the kind of person they were when they lived in this life. Talking that Ebonics, that black language, right? So when we speak of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, we say Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Again, the emphasis is the Quranic Arabic language. There is a command on Muslims that we ask for prayers and peace upon Muhammad, as Allah has also ordered the angels to ask for the same. Allah does it, the angels do it, and God has told us as believers that you do the same. And this is why we call those praises upon Muhammad whenever we mention his name. Sometimes we'll say it in English, and sometimes we'll say it in the Arabic, but that's what it means. So that's some of the topics that we'll cover. There are many other phrases and common terms that will be explained clearly for you in the Shahadatain Institute 11-week course. Also, there will be an overview of al-Islam. Just what is al-Islam? Its beliefs, its practices, its teachings, and the like. Also, the history of al-Islam. That is, what was the life of the Arabs before al-Islam? What was the life of the Arabs when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was among them? What was the life of Islam when it moved from Arabia to Africa and to other points in the world? How did Islam progress? What was al-Islam? When did al-Islam come to America? How long has al-Islam been to America? Are there other groups and organizations of al-Islam in America? Is there only Minister Farrakhan and Wallace Muhammad? What are the other facets in the lives of Muslims here in America? That will be covered, as well as Islam in America in general, at large. What place, what role, what mission, what purpose does al-Islam have in America? And finally, in including Muslim morals and manners. There are most of us who, we have some idea about what al-Islam is, but here's a part of the default problem with people's understanding about what Islamic morals and manners are. Most people seem to be familiar with what you can't do vis-a-vis al-Islam. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do this, you can't do that. So it's a can't-do religion for most people, right? But that's not true. That's not truly al-Islam. And there are sometimes people who impose restrictions on us, which in and of themselves, for the person who can carry those restrictions, is good. But it is not a mandate necessarily of the total religion, the particular things that I'm mentioning or thinking of right now. So we need to know what are the boundaries and what are the guidelines, what are the rights and what are the duties, what are the manners, what are the morals of al-Islam. When I become a Muslim, does that mean I have to become like a priest or I have to become like a nun, or do I just just stop everything and then do a total 180 in my life? Is that how it works? Is every Muslim that I see such a person? I can guarantee you no, that is not the case. And these are some of the things that will hurt you if you have that thinking. Well, when I become Muslim, I gotta be total 100% sinless, stainless, etc. No, it doesn't work like that. This is why you will find, and regrettably, but it's true, because I have testimony from my own immediate circle of friends who are non-Muslim, that they get saved. I joined the church, and then it's all about the Bible. It's just the Lord said, God said, yeah, I'm going to prayer meeting tonight. Yeah. Well, you going to be there? Oh, yeah, we're going for a mission visit. All right, that lasts for about 2 months, 3 months. In the 4th month, they back on the same thing that they were on before. Because it's not right to think that you can make this 180-degree turn and not fall victim, quote unquote, of some of the things that you were victimized by before you even accepted religion. Al-Islam does not demand that of Muslims. And so it's that kind of orientation that Muslims need to have so they can understand that Al-Islam is gradualism, and it's in this kind of friendly environment of the Shahadatain Institute that you'll have the opportunity to really know what Al-Islam is and is not, what it does and does not expect of you. So at this time, I'd like to call our next testimonial to give us some feedback on his experience, how he came to Al-Islam, and what the Shahadatain Institute means to him. And we're going to have Brother Naeem, am I correct? Okay, Brother Naeem Majid. I know him. I'm just questioning the order because I didn't have my script in front of me, right? All right, Brother Naeem Majid is going to give us his testimony. Thank you, Brother Naeem. Now, while that greeting is not an obligation, we do it sometimes.
Assalamu alaikum. Okay, as the Imam has just said, my name is Naeem Majid, and in terms of me sharing a little bit of information with you about how I came to Islam, actually it's a privilege and a pleasure for me because I enjoy sharing this information to the point that I realize just how I came to Islam. Actually, I can say it's my introduction to Islam, so to speak, was in 1942, the year that I was born. I was born in Detroit, Michigan, and my grandparents were involved with the first, what they call the first. I don't know if they called it that in the 30s, whether it was the first or before the first. I don't know what it was, but so I grew up listening to one part of my family was involved, and the other part of my family were Baptists. So I grew up listening to the teachings and the old stories, and I was just kind of on the set, on the floor. At that time, children didn't say a whole lot. They were just on the set, and that's what was happening. I was just listening to as the old people talk. And in my grandparents' generation, there were approximately 14 that had come from the South. They had come up in the early 30s and the late 20s from Mississippi to Detroit. And it just so happened that most of those 14, at least 11 of them, were involved with the inception at that time in Detroit, Islam. So I grew up in a real large extended family. And again, most of my cousins and myself that age were just sitting around on the floor listening constantly. At that time, I didn't know how much effect that would have in my life, and still don't really know exactly how much effect that has in my life. I grew up, at the age of 18, I left home. The practice at that time wasn't real strong and rigid, but listening to the stories and the information over the years obviously had an effect, because when I left home, I didn't leave home as a conscious Muslim, so to speak, but I went on and lived my life after I got out here in California and studied various religions and schools of thought, and many. I was just always interested in learning. In about 1990, 91, I came in this direction. I have no idea at this point, other than the fact that I know Allah sent me this way, but I have no logical idea of how I got to this particular mosque at that time. I came here and I was here for about 3 months when I found out I had an opportunity to go to Egypt. I had not taken my Shahadatain at that time. The feeling was just right for me to come here. I found out I had an opportunity to go to Egypt through my employment. And I knew for some reason, I knew that that was a blessing. I felt that that was a blessing to me, but I took advantage of that opportunity and I left. I went to Cairo, Egypt. I was there for approximately 4 months when I found out that I also had a chance, or I thought, to make the pilgrimage, the Hajj. So I started doing the things that you were supposed to do there, getting prepared and the paperwork and all of that. And I had about 2 weeks before the final date was to come to make the pilgrimage, or for people to leave Egypt. And it's a real bureaucratic process. So because I had just recently changed my name before I left, that part was not in order. So I was going through all the hoops and everything that the Egyptians required. And when you don't come and get ready to leave as an Egyptian, there are other hoops that they make sure you go through. And one was getting my name together. I didn't have all of the paperwork, although I had officially changed it here. I had to fly back from Egypt, get everything prepared here correct, and then go back to Egypt. Well, I got back to Egypt, it was 1 day too late to make the Hajj. Everybody had gone, they had cut off everything, so, but I knew I had made the effort. Believe me, I had made the effort to go, so inshallah, I'm still making that effort, and inshallah, I'll make that. But what I found after getting back to Egypt, and I stayed there for a year, and there's many, everywhere you go, there are masjids all up and down the street. You hear the adhan being called. There are schools. When you get there, everybody wants to teach you and educate you, all of the Egyptians, and they want to take you under their wing. And I was about learning. I wanted to learn, and the experience was wonderful, and I did learn a lot there. But the motivation for me remaining and climbing further off into Islam wasn't really in Cairo, Egypt. There were several tapes that I had taken with me when I left from here. And all of the teachings and the learnings and me going to the mosque every day, every other day, was nothing like the tapes that I put on, that I listened to daily. And the tapes was from this masjid right here. And it was, many of them were the Jum'ahs that were presented here by the Imam Fahim Shuaib. That made me think, now I'm right here where I'm supposed to be getting everything, and I was receiving everything, but it wasn't like I couldn't wait to get home to put these tapes on. And that just let me know, I'm sure I was in the right place where I needed to be at the time, but it also let me know that there was something I could receive on a different level that I couldn't get in Cairo, Egypt. So even though I had gone here 3 or 4 months before I went to Egypt, it made me want to get back here where people are trying to get other places, I'm sure. I couldn't wait to get back here. So when I did, I came back here, and I was coming to the masjid before I left, maybe just on once a week. But now I can't wait to get here more and more. That, in terms of the Shahadatain that we're just opening up the institute now, it makes me realize that what we need to receive right here is something real important in terms of just how we receive things from this community, from our own experiences that we've grown up with. I mean, I grew up in Detroit, but I could get more here than I could get in Cairo, Egypt, at least consciously. That's what I felt. So that's kind of like how I came to Islam. The learning environment here is something that holds me quite close. This space, like that. Okay. Okay. So I think I've Ah, and that's what I was saying. The Institute, again, I go back to the Institute that's being developed here certainly has, for me, a touch of practical approach that we can put our hands on here, again, coming from this particular environment. Not only is it practical, but there's conscious effort, intellectual effort, spiritual effort that's exposed here that, again, I don't feel that element is existing a lot anywhere as far as we're concerned as African Americans. So the approach that that institute, or the benefit that that institute will provide, is just beneficial to people in this element here, right? Much more than it would be if we were somewhere else. That's what the institute means to me. It's for us and the people who approach this and touch this particular ummah here. So, assalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Brother Naeem. Yes, the Institute is really, really an important aspect of our life. I want to go and just share a couple of other things about the Shahadatain Institute for the benefit of our audience, those of you who have of our television audience, those who have the flyer. Let's just look at the center section of this flyer where it says the Shahadatain Institute is committed to addressing the lack of God consciousness. One of the essential meanings of Shahadatain, it is raising the consciousness of Allah, improving the individual's conscience, so that the person will know. I mean, when you have appropriate conscience, then your conscience, when it's working, it'll say, well, no, that's not right. When it's working, it says, no, you know that's wrong. But when the conscience is not working, then it says, well, you know, whatever. Ain't no shame in my game. And I think that's one way that the world says it. That's the way of the world saying, I have no conscience. Ain't no shame in my game. Meaning nothing shames me. You see? But in Al-Islam, we know that you have to have a sense of shame. You have to have a sense of God consciousness. You have to have a good conscience. But that only comes as you elevate your understanding of God, you elevate your understanding of God's purpose. So one of those things is, again, to remove the lack of God consciousness, also to remove the ignorance of prophethood. As we spoke of Jesus Christ, alayhi salatu wasalam, we say the prayers and peace be upon him as well. These are things that we say for all the prophets. We don't just say that for Prophet Muhammad. We say it for Jesus, we say it for Moses, we say it for Noah, we say it for Abraham, we say it for all the prophets. God's peace be on them. But there is an ignorance of prophethood, such as is represented by the fact that Jesus, yes, was a prophet, but now there are those who call him the Son of God, and they call him, indeed, some call him God himself, God in the flesh. No, you misreferenced the prophethood. Yes, and Jesus Christ was born without the agency of a man. Muslims accept that. Muslims accept that Jesus had no earthly father. Muslims accept that. But we don't jump from there to say that Jesus is the Son of God. And we don't jump from there to say that Jesus is God in the flesh. But we do say that Jesus had no earthly father. He was created by God, just as Adam was created by God without a mother or a father. So which one was hardest if there was difficulty at all? And there's no difficulty for God, Allah. Which one would be harder, to create one there's no pattern for him, or one where a pattern already exists? And this is what we want to do. We want to remove this ignorance of prophethood. And also one of those ignorances, we won't elaborate, but one of those ignorances is that we think that prophethood puts the prophet in a place that is superhuman. No, the prophet is really, he just comes to show you how to be human. God tells him in the Quran to say, tell them, Anal Bashirun Mithlukum. This is what God tells Prophet Muhammad. Say to the people, I'm a flesh and blood human being just like you. Prophet Muhammad made some errors, and God revealed those errors in the Quran. So Prophet Muhammad himself was under the rule of the Quran, and he was a human being just like everybody else, only that he was the receptor of the Quran, and God had prepared him to be the example of our humanity. That's it. All he is a model. The Quran says, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. Surely you have in the Messenger of Allah a most excellent model to follow. So God wouldn't give us a model to follow whose potential was super to ours. He's saying, well, here's a human being, and he's a witness against you. Now you are supposed to give testimony to the people that you are among. These are all things from the Quran. So removing the ignorance of prophethood, removing polytheism. We don't believe that there's a multiplicity of gods. Muslims do not believe there is only one God. There is only one God. And that's all we're saying when we say La ilaha illallah, there is only one God. There's not 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 or 1,000. There's only one God. And we want to remove this polytheism. Also, low human values, and also low productivity, a poor understanding of human nature, some of which is addressed in the very issue of prophethood. We fail to understand human nature. Some say, by one man's sin, death entered into the world. So we are now led by that to believe that death itself is wrong. Like death is not supposed to be here. There's not supposed to be. No, God intends for there to be death. He doesn't intend for us to live. He never intended for us to live forever. This life is a temporary trial, a temporary place where our souls in these bodies are being evolved and tested so that when the body is taken away by death, then the soul is going to have to answer for how it lived this bodily earthly life. That's the plan. So Muslims are always looking forward to the day when they have to stand before their Lord naked and alone and answer for everything they did in this life. And Shahadatain begins us on that road so that we don't die without having had some instruction, some guidance as to how to live good in this life so that we won't be caught unawares or caught without the right developments in the judgment. And even that first Quranic verse that we read, God said this, when the soul testified, God said, we're doing this in order that when the Yawm al-Qiyamah, when the resurrection day comes, you won't be able to say, I didn't know anything about it. Because the soul already knows. The impression is already on. So just like that quarter or nickel or dime that's in your pocket, and it's already stamped on, and every time you pull it out, that impression is there. Well, God has already impressed our souls with the fact that there is no God but He. And the soul, when it's freed from this body, won't be in a position to lie. But while we're in the body, we can cloud our conscience by saying, well, there is no God. I'm an atheist. Somebody had to teach you that. That's not natural for you. Okay. So we want to remove this misunderstanding of human nature, this ignorance of human purpose. There's a plan for us here. Corrupt moral and ethical behavior. We're going to educate the environment to raise the consciousness of higher realities. So these are, again, some more of the things that Shahadatain Institute is about. And the Shahadatain course is going to enable individuals to learn these various aspects of the mission of the Shahadatain Institute and how they can also better live an Islamic life. Our third testimonial is going to come today from a sister who has another facet of her experience, and is also, and each of these speakers are also those who are helping to build the Shahadatain Institute as well. She is Nimat Shahid Jacks, and she is going to share with us her coming to Al-Islam and what the Shahadatain Institute means to her. Nimat Shahid Jacks.
Regime. I seek refuge in Allah from the rejected enemy, Shaitan. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. With the name of God, the most gracious, the most compassionate. Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. I bear witness that there is no God, no deity except Allah. Wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abdahu wa rasuluh. And I bear witness that Muhammad, from over 1400 years ago, is his last servant and messenger. Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. How I came into Al-Islam, we were given 8 minutes. I'm glad, too. It means I can leave a lot of little pieces out. But I think in retrospect, and thinking about that, when I was very young, and I'm not sure, I may have been 5 or 6, I remember my mother having the final call. I didn't know it was the final call at that time, but I knew later that that's what those pictures were, the little black mother and the little girl and the little white mother and the little girl and the comic strips. That's all I would look at. I also remember her, when we're talking about the seeds and the various things that happen, and I attribute these things that I'm going to share with the grace of God bringing me into the religion. Her listening to Malcolm. I remember Muhammad Ali. That was in the black and white days, television black and white days. Also during that time, that I was born in the late 50s, it was sort of the revolutionary period for our community. We were real conscious about who we were and what it was that we were trying to establish, and all of that was in the atmosphere. Prior to becoming a Muslim, I was thinking about going to the Black Panthers, but they were just breaking up. So I would go around the office and just kind of find something to do, and it wasn't much. It wasn't that many people there. I came into the religion right out of high school. In fact, I graduated in 1976, and those first few months of my attendance at Laney College, I would see the Muslims on campus, remnants, I might say, because Elijah Muhammad had passed in 75. So I would see remnants of Muslims selling papers. And, you know, they were real consistent, and I wasn't interested. You know, I was just like, no, no. It's kind of, for me, with no disrespect, like Jehovah's Witnesses. It's just this constant, you know, thing. So one day, I listened, and I don't know why, because my no was automatic, no. And there was just one statement made, and that changed my life. And that was that, don't you know that God, Jesus is not God, and why would God need to have a woman in order to have a baby? I mean, that was it. After I heard that, I was like, yeah. I mean, really, literally, I was like, yeah. Well, I spent the next 7 months just studying the religion. You know, I just got whatever it was that I could in order to find out what the religion was about. A point that I didn't mention, I think that is important for me, was that I was always God conscious. I always went to church. My best friend was a Christian. Her dad was a preacher. In my early years before going to church, I was always conscious of God because of my adventurous nature. I was constantly in trouble. And being in trouble, I remember my mom would say, I mean, I was averaging like 3 whippings a week. And so she would say, I'm whipping you, but she would always whip us at the end of the day. So I was like, so I had the whole day. So I would just be praying, oh God, please let her forget, please let her forget. And she would always forget. So I knew there was something going on with God and this response thing, and, you know, that kept me going. So I knew there was a higher force because, you know, I was witnessing salvation. In any event, you know, I came into the religion, and when I came here. So for me, this is my home, Masjidul Waritheen. Again, I mean, I was really young. I don't think there were any sisters my age in the community because the community had began to separate from what was known as the nation into the teachings of Imam Waritheen Muhammad. But that didn't distract me because it was just, you know, like Brother Naeem said before me, you know, it's just something, you know, and it's the grace of God. And I continued to come. I would just do whatever needed to be done. You know, some of the Muslims in this community I've known for 20 years or more at the struggles, which is another important point, I think, for young sisters coming to the religion when you're talking about being, you know, 17, 18, and 19, and that my friends, they really started thinking I was tripping. You know, it's like, okay, now she's wearing these long dresses. You know, I wasn't matching. I didn't know what kind of fabrics to wear. It would be 90 degrees. I have on a wool skirt and blue shoes, and, you know, I was just covering up. And so I know, and when you're young and you're coming in, there appears to be this pull from your family. I didn't eat pork. Now they start making all the pork jokes, you know, make greens. My mother did really good, though. She, you know, started doing my food separately, and she was very nurturing. There were no other persons in the family that were Muslims, more, you know, thinking about being a Muslim. But my mother was very nurturing in that regard. In any event, so for young people coming in, that's something that you should know that's going to happen. But I stayed steadfast. I was constantly working hard. I stayed involved in the community, and those kinds of things kept me safe from some of the criticism in the community and society at large. What the Shahadatain Institute means to me. Well, I'm glad. To say it lightly, you know, my husband has a saying that, you know, it makes my heart go gladdy, you know, to know that this institute is evolving, because that would mean that the new Shahids would have an opportunity to have a CD introduction into Al-Islam, a disc. It would be compact. Which in some instances can save years and years of studying, of sort of running into walls and picking up books and nope, this concept is wrong or this paradigm is incorrect. It will save the new Shahids the time for having to go through that. It also will allow the new shaheeds to have some help readily available. One of the things that I appreciated in the latter 70s with the Muslims was the sisters. You know, they were like 10 to 12 years older, but you know, they were always helping me, always keeping me busy. And so I think to have the institution and to identify people to help the new Muslims so that when you come, you won't stand in the middle of the room wondering, where am I and which way do I go? That there is someone who will, you know, embrace you, you know, take you by your hand and help you spiritually, emotionally, and intellectually. And then that there will be a ceremony, that there will be, for some of you who might be more familiar with the party, but in a more sacred sense, a celebration of the new person coming into the religion and recognized as a rites of passage or the new birth into the religion. And then the other part in regards to what the Institute means to me is that the Institute is only 1/5 of the total vision. That what we are doing now or attempting to do now with the facilities that we have arranged for the new Muslims to come in, that it is a embracing, caring, nurturing facility, and that it only represents a corner or 1/5 of the whole vision, and that the excitement of seeing the completion of this vision and this idea and how it will benefit not only the new Muslims, but our own community here and its activity, as well as the outer community at large. And then the instructors, and being one of the persons working with the committee, I'm always fascinated by thinking and been intrigued by the different Muslims and how they created their curriculum, wonderful curriculums, just wonderful, and even our brainstorming process, and that the new Muslims will have an opportunity to experience a variety of different thinkers, insightful people with various experience background. And then that the final result then would be that each person coming to this 11-week session would leave with a clear picture, representation of the religion, new friendship, a new community life, and an opportunity to develop a sound perspective of al-Islam in a nurturing environment. And so I look forward to the beginning of our classes and the new shahids coming in. Assalamu alaikum.
Taking my script from me. Bismillah, alhamdulillah. Thank you, Nimat Shahid Jacks, for your testimony. Also, the Shahadatain Institute, among the many things that Nimat and others have already said, the Shahadatain Institute is going to be helping its participants by providing orientation and education, providing follow-up information and support for visiting guests of members. That is, many of us, you know, we ourselves who are Muslims, sometimes we want to invite people, come on, I want you to come to the masjid, but they also need to be supported in that. I bring a guest, I want my guests to be respected. I want my guests to be treated well. I want my guests to feel welcome. I want my guests not to be offended by any kind of sensibilities that some Muslim around here is carrying that have nothing to do with the religion, but it has to do with a hangover that you got. You got a spiritual hangover, and you're going to put that on somebody else. No, let people evolve. Well, that's the Shahadatain Institute. It's not just what's over there in the class. It's creating an atmosphere to making sure that the individual has a quality experience when they are present. And those of us who are involved, we've been around long enough to know who to watch. Okay? I wish I didn't have to say it, but part of the difference between us and other orientations is that we are we be for real. All right? Also, we are establishing a support system for new students of al-Islam and the new Muslims. That system is called the Mu'akha system. The Mu'akhar system is when Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he left Mecca in his history and he went to Medina where he could finally establish the city of Islam. And in so doing, many Muslims were followers of his. They followed him also in what's called Hijrah. They left Mecca and they also went to Medina. But they had to leave everything behind that they had. They left their wealth, they left their property, they left so many resources that they had behind. So when they came to Medina, many of them didn't have anything. As a result, the Prophet, peace be upon him, established the Mu'akhar system. It's from Akhi, it means brother. It's a brotherhood system. So that when the persons got to the Muhajirs, meaning the people who made this Hijrah, when they got to Medina, they were tied together with someone. So when you become a new Shahid or you take part in the Shahadatain Institute, there will be somebody who will be your Ansar mentor. They will be someone who will be with you, call you, stay in touch with you, answer the questions that you may not have answered that particular day. A question may come up in the middle of the week and you need to get an answer for that. Then that individual will be the one that you call, say, well, Sister so-and-so, what about this? Brother so-and-so, what about this, that, and the other? It's their responsibility to make sure that you get that information. And then, as was mentioned, sometimes you're going to be confronted with the difficulties of old friends, relatives, who say, you done lost your mind. And they want to take you to the psychiatrist or take you back to the pastor, and he want to sit you down and try to deprogram you or whatever. I'm just telling you what goes on sometimes. Some people think that, you lost it when you accept Islam. But that's not your problem. The issue is we need to support those people so they can know, these people aren't crazy. They just have another way of looking at things other than the way that the world has been conditioned to look at things. And 1.2 billion people in the world, all of them can't be crazy. Okay? And that's how many Muslims there are. And the acknowledgement of Islam is just growing and growing and growing throughout the world. It's just a new phenomenon for most of us in this generation and in this environment. And plus, the media has been working to give certain impressions of Islam that are the wrong impressions of Islam, as a result of which people do have the wrong perception of Islam. And so based on what they've been seeing, they would probably be right to say, yeah, you're crazy, if you're that. But the point is, al-Islam is not what the media at large and others who remain unnamed have tried diligently to besmirch the reality of al-Islam. Also, al-Islam will be, the Shahadatain Institute, is going to provide opportunities for socialization for new students of al-Islam and new Muslims. We're working on the New Africa Cafe. We have the Elijah Muhammad Culture Center at this point. That we're going to be improving that, creating an atmosphere, a restaurant, cafe kind of atmosphere, so that today, for example, if we were up and running at this point, then we would conclude the session, we go over and we can have a Sunday afternoon meal, or we can have some nice herb tea, or, we sit down and just have a conversation about what was talked about. So the new Shahids and also their Ansar mentor, or the community host, they would just take them over there, and if this is your first time, meal would be on us. Second time, you might have to pay, or we'll get your Ansar mentor to pay. And then third time, you have to pay. Okay? No, that's not the rule. I'm just trying to be humorous, okay? But in any case, that's the idea. Come, have a quality experience, go over, enjoy, and such a beautiful day today, too. It's really, really wonderful. All right, so we're going to be providing opportunity for socialization, and then also we'll be having like dinners and little small informal get-togethers so that you can invite that friend. Your mother, father, sister, brother, uncle, for just an informal gathering where they can just come over and get to meet some of the other Muslims. We're not trying to pull them in. We're just trying to get them off you if they're on you in that sense, or relieve them of thinking that you've made a bad decision. That's the bottom line. When they meet some of the people, these people's all right. These people ain't crazy. But they need to have that opportunity. Well, that's what we're going to be doing with Shahadatain Institute, giving the opportunities to alleviate some of our close friends and relatives of the fear that you're making a bad decision when you take Shahadatain or become a Muslim. And by and large, we simply want to create a quality experience for every one of our guests and the new students of Islam and new Muslims. Our final testimonial is going to come from a very, very special brother, as all of our presenters are special. Rashid Ali, he's been working very, very close with the children for many, many years of the Clara Muhammad School and of the Masjidul Waritheen community. He's also one of the premier Quranic instructors in Masjidul Waritheen community, and he's also one of the builders of the Shahadatain Institute. I'll give you Abdul Rashid Ali with his testimony of how he came to al-Islam and what the Shahadatain Institute means to him. Wa alaikum assalam. How are you doing?
Say a prayer for me.
Ameen.
With the name Allah, most gracious, most merciful. Ashhadu la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. That is, I bear witness that there is no deity, object of worship, except Allah. He is one, unique, having no partners or servants, and I bear witness openly that Muhammad is his abdu, his servant, and his rasul, his messenger. Assalamu alaikum. If I seem real serious to you, don't pay any attention to that, because that's just the way I am. When I get in front of a crowd, I get nervous and I seem to be real serious. I'm not really that way. How came to Al-Islam? Well, first I'd just like to say alhamdulillah, all praises due to Allah. After that, I grew up in a household where I can honestly say I never remember my father going to church one day in his life, other than maybe a funeral. And my mother, she was the type of person, every now and then she'd get a bug up her butt and say, "You're going to church." And that was it. And it was just me and my sister. And the first fight was fighting with her about going to church. And the second fight, me and my sister fought all the way, blaming each other whose fault it was, because we had to go to church. But after we got there, it was cool. I enjoyed it. We had a few friends there. That was my earliest memory of the church. But as far as just thinking of life, I remember once in my life where I was sitting on the curb, and I couldn't have been any more than 7 years old. And I was just looking up at the sky, thinking about all the things that I have seen in the sky, that is the sun, the moon, and the stars. And I would think, where did all of this come from? And then my next thought would be, suppose that was just nothing. And that would just kind of like blow my mind. That was my first thought. After that, I remember my dad, he would periodically buy Muhammad Speaks, and they were around the house, even though I never picked up one, but I always would see them. And then after that, I remember my dad telling me once, at the time I was born, when I was born, we have a large extended family. I have a lot of juniors in my family. And I used to ask my dad, I asked him once, I said, "Dad," I said, "how come you didn't name me Junior?" And he told me, he said, "Well, son, he said, you got to be your own man." That's all he told me. He said, "You got to be your own man, and you got to find your way in life." And after that, I remember I left school early, but I do remember it was in 1964. I was working at a all-night gas station, pumping gas, changing flat tires, checking radios, radiators, washing windshield, stuff like that. And I remember a guy coming in there, his name was Adol Akbar. And he used to come in there, and he used to get me fired up. That's the first time I really constantly heard Salam Alaikum. Today we say Assalamu Alaikum. And he would say terms like, his name was Adol Akbar. I heard the Akbar, Muhammad, and of course Allah. This really did something to me. So I started going to the Nation of Islam. But I just couldn't make that transition. I just really, even though I grew up in segregation, I didn't have that type of hate in me. I looked at the Caucasian. At that particular time, like I said, I grew up in segregation, and I went to all African Negro schools at that time, or color schools. I don't know what we call them. But I just didn't have that type of hate in me, so I never could make that transition. So I went through a period of my life where I found myself between a rock and a hard spot. And you get yourself between a rock and a hard spot, you can't go nowhere. So during that period of time, I was around some black Muslims, and they had a little influence on me. I did send off to Chicago for a Holy Quran. I paid $4.95 for it. And I was proud of that Quran, I took the brother's advice, kept the Quran on my highest shelf, and every now and then I pull it out and show it to somebody, It gave me some kind of false validity about like, well, I'm somebody, I got a Quran. Ain't nobody got a Quran but me. Even though I wasn't doing nothing with it, I pull it out and I look at it, which I would. And then finally, there was some black Muslims who was trying to start a group, and I just left them with them. So the next event in my life, significant emotional event in my life, happened in 1975, right after Alam Elijah Muhammad passed. Right after he passed, in Muhammad Speaks, and I would buy papers periodically. I just happened to buy a paper one day, and I seen the prayer in the paper. And that transliteration just fascinated me. As a matter of fact, the paper I bought it from was his sister Naima's son, Shaheed. He was selling the paper. And when I started reading this transliteration of the paper, it just did something to me. I just can't explain it, but it was a significant emotional event in my life. And I just knew that, I had to come to this direction. So around 1977, I used to come to this place right here. Sometime I come late at night, early in the morning, and I just would sit out there on the corner of my truck and just look at the place. And I wanted to come in, but I was kind of scared because I didn't know nobody, So I eventually got enough courage to come in. And I said, alhamdulillah. And I remember some of my very first teachers, the two of them are here right now. Someone that I had at that particular time was Imam Fahim Shoaib. He was Fahim Shoaib then at that time. And the first time I met him, and I've told him on numerous occasions that I always thought was something special about him. And Azizuddin Bashir, Jeffrey Bashir, and Abdul Rauf Nasir, and of course Ghazi Farwell. And all these people had influenced me, to help me at least learn the prayers, because when we come to Al-Islam, we have to learn the prayers right away so we can worship Allah properly. So that's basically how I came to Al-Islam. It's probably more to it than just that, but that's basically, and even though I'm not Abdul Shakur, the older I get, and I'm 53 years old now, I feel like Abdul Shakur. I'm just grateful, thankful, appreciative, for almost everything I can be conscious of. You can't be conscious of everything, all the little minute things in your body, but they have a purpose. But the Shahadatain Institute, alhamdulillah, what does it mean to me? First, it's a legacy. It's a legacy. It's something that we can leave behind. Because when we came in this society, in this world, everything that's convenient for us is a legacy that somebody else left behind. I don't know if any of you have experienced an outhouse in the wintertime, but that ain't no fun. Especially on a snowy winter night. I think I'm gonna hold it. It's not so much just cold, it's scared, just going out there by yourself, When I was growing up, I was scared of everything. But anyway, what the Institute means to me is a legacy. Plus, it gives us opportunity. It gives me opportunity to teach and give me opportunity to learn. As the Prophet Muhammad said, if you want to know someone, you have to live with them, work with them, and travel with them. You work with some individuals on a project, you stay up all night long, part of the next day, and you bring your little stuff and you lay it down, and 600 individuals just cut it up and maybe use 20% of it. That's a growing process. So that's what the Institute means to me. And we know that when this Institute reaches its fullest potential, I know I won't be living. I know I won't live that long. But I am very grateful that I have been given the opportunity to work on this Institute, to work with the people, and inshallah, we're going to continue to do the best we can in the name of Allah. Thank you very much. Assalamu alaikum.
Alhamdulillah, Abdul Rashid Ali, he's very special. We thank all of those individuals who have given their testimony, and I'd like to introduce a couple of other of the members of the Shahadatain committee group who are also working on that, if they would just stand so they can be recognized by the people who won't necessarily have to have it on camera. But I'd like to have Sister Daiya Salahuddin please stand and to be recognized. She is working with the Shahadatain committee, and they have helped to evolve it to where it is today and keep it going to where it's going tomorrow. Ah, see, high tech. Okay, that was off. Let's try that again. My microphone was off. So I want to introduce Sadaiya Salahuddin again, while complimenting all the other members of the Shahadatain committee. So Sadaiya Salahuddin, who is one of the members of the Shahadatain committee, and each one of them have a topic that they are going to be addressing. I know Sister Najee is going to be working with Adab, the morals and manners of Al-Islam. Yours is going to be Al-Islam internationally? Okay. Say it again? National, the Islam in America, nationally, yes. Nimat Shahid Jacks, who you met, she is doing the Muslim worldview, the overview of Islam in the world at large. Also, Abdul Rashid Ali is doing the 5 pillars of Al-Islam, dealing with the basic articles of faith and concepts in Al-Islam. So that initial topic, the basics of Al-Islam, correct? Okay. Naeem Majid, he's on the Vision Committee, I'm sorry. Also, Brother Azizuddin Bashir, also a premier Quranic teacher here in the community. Your topic is the history of Al-Islam, yes. And Brother Idris Islam, who is not with us, young man, his topic is Islam in America. He's doing the Islam in America, the pre-1900 and then on and on and on and on, dealing with all these transitions and other things that have taken place in Islam in America. Also, we have some members of the Vision Committee, which are the overriding entity that is really working on the master vision of, as Nimat had mentioned, that this is only 1/5 of a larger project. It is the Vision Committee that is working to establish that. Brother Hassan Dewan in the back, if you would, so to be recognized, raise your hand, or stand, either one. Hassan Dewan. Also myself, I'm a part of the Vision Committee. Brother Jahiz Agard, who is not with us today. Brother Naeem Majid, who you met, he is one of the members of the Vision Committee. And Brother Kenneth Jones, who is also not with us today. These have been the principles that have stuck with this process thus far for a year or more and got us to this point. And they are going to be going on with the process, and we pray Allah blesses all of those individuals with the longevity to see this to the end, at least of their particular capacity to contribute. As a final note on the Shahadatain Institute, before we invite a new Shahid to give everyone the opportunity to witness what does it mean to take Shahadatain, I just want to mention to you that Imam Muhammad says this of Shahada when the individual takes Shahadatain. He says, what do we say? Meaning when we take Shahadatain. We say, I witness there is none but one God. The testimony is the first level of consciousness in divine reality, to recognize that there is God in the substrata of existence. Until we recognize that we're really sleepwalkers. We have life, we're going about, but our whole life is like a life of sleep until we wake to the reality that there is a God over us, responsible for us existing. Now, I'm sure that that's the end of the quote, and that's a quote from Imam W.D. Muhammad. And I'm sure we recognize that there's a whole world of people who believe in God that haven't taken this Shahadatain. One of the things about believing in God is that what orientation to life does your belief in God give you? Okay, I believe in God, I believe in God, I believe in God. Okay, how does your belief in God affect your living? Is it giving you more faith in your own potential? Does it give you an understanding of the things that you have gone through in your own personal history and in your ethnic history? Does it help you understand the nature of the time and what's happening in the contemporary world? Does it give you a capacity to feel that you have the ability to take full advantage of all the possibilities that are within you and that are available in the world that God has created? Do you believe that you have, by virtue of the faith that you have in God, everything necessary to fulfill your life to its fullest possibilities? Well, if you don't have that along with your belief in God, then your belief in God is in some way deficient. It is knowing and understanding who the God, Allah, is that opens up the door to all of those possibilities, to feel a sense of confidence and faith and capacity and ability that you have never felt before. I assure you of that. I didn't give my testimony, and maybe I'll say one thing about that. Sound like the guy John Lovitz, you know. Yeah, I created that. No, I'll I guess I must latent want to be a comedian somewhere in my background. I just want to be a stand-up comedian, so I just try to find a joke that maybe, I don't know. But in any case, I will say this. Myself personally, I was at the College of Alameda, just real quick, shot. I was at the College of Alameda. I had always been searching for a way that African American people could perform better. I was never satisfied with the way that African American people performed after I got through my change after 19 years old. When I graduated high school, usually when we graduate high school, we think it's all over, now I'm grown and I don't have to look back, do nothing, I'm a free man. So I took my hobo year, that hobo year between 18 and 19, just vagabonding around, doing whatever. Still living at my mama's house. She paying all the bills, providing all the food now. So I'm doing that. Finally, when I wound up getting kicked out of her house, as a matter of fact, I'm 47 years old, smoking marijuana, and I think that's a contemporary thing. But so that's what I was doing. Got kicked out of my mother's house, so I had to go live with my father. They had been separated since I was 12. So now I begin this search, and in my looking at this search, I was realizing that, and I had felt it for a long time, that African American people did not perform as well as they should. I thought we had more potential than we were ever demonstrating. I thought we were operating on such a low level, and we had so much more capacity than we were demonstrating. So I went out looking for who is it or what is it that can make African American people perform better. Well, I went to the College of Alameda just after 19, and there was a brother there. And this brother, it's almost like one Thursday I saw him this way, and Friday I saw him another way. I saw him Thursday, he had a full leather suit on, full leather, even summertime, full leather. He had this Cool Daddy hat on. He know what I'm talking about. He had this Cool Daddy hat on, where you just see one eye right here. And he was a heroin addict. He was a heroin addict. And I saw him. He was living in Alameda. And it seemed like the next time I saw this brother, it wasn't really that fast, but Allah put it such that bang, bang, like that. Next time I saw, he's on 14th and Broadway selling that Muhammad Speak newspaper. And he wearing a full-blown suit. He's all cleaned up. I say, man, what happened to this guy? I said, whatever he got, that's the thing. That's what I'm looking for, right? And so I began to see more and more, like Nimat talked about those cartoons. You see, the Muhammad Speak newspaper had heavy cartoons. And nothing was more right for us at the mental level that we were at. Just give us the cartoon picture, and it says it all. And I had this image in my mind. One of the pictures was a star and crescent. And a star and crescent, cartoons, they just had the faces, like happy faces. The star and crescent which was the symbol for the Nation of Islam at that time, they had all these happy faces. All the happy faces were in the star and crescent. They smiled. And then everybody else was running toward the star and crescent. So I was like, the message is, that's where you got to go. You got to go there. Then I started seeing people, one day I would see a sister, she's dressed in one way. Then the next day I said she had her holy robes, what they call holy garments on, whatever it was. Everything we did was holy at that time, right? They had the holy robes on. One sister I ran into, she was in the market. She was in the grocery store. And in that grocery store, she had this white. It was all white. Bang. She knew my sister. They had gone to UC Berkeley together. And so I'm walking my sister. My sister's 2 years older than I. So we're going there. And I saw this sister. And then my sister talked to her, blah, blah, blah. And the sister said, I'm in the nation now. I mean, just when she said, I'm in the nation, I said, pow. I said, what? I'm in the nation. It's like, boom. Another member of my church saw him. We would look at our faces at that time, and this brother is very, very dark-skinned brother, but his face was just smooth like a black olive, shining, smiling, stand up. That's it. So I ran into my friend, Abdul Raouf. He's my long-term friend, my brother, et cetera, et cetera. He had a canteen down at Laney College. I tapped him on his shoulder one day. I said, I want to be a Muslim. And Abdul Raouf told me that maybe you don't. Now, those of you who know Abdul Raouf, you know that's the kind of guy he is. He said, now, don't be jumping to no conclusions. He said, maybe you want to check it out first. But what Abdul Raouf did for me is what the Shahadatain Institute is actually talking about instituting, doing for individuals. He picked me up. He answered my question. He bought me the bean pie. He bought me the paper. He followed up on me. And I owe a great debt of gratitude to Abdul Raouf for being here. In 1975, when Imam Muhammad came in and transitioned this, and he told us what Shahadatain was, those of us who were graced by Allah to have had that experience and survived it, because it was something to survive. You've heard me talk about it many, many times, and have survived it by the grace of God. We took that Shahadatain. Now we are truly Muslim. We were Muslim in form then. We were Muslims in intent then, but we were not Muslims in fact then. It was not until we took Shahadatain that we in fact became Muslim. But praise be to God, we had the preparation for Islam, those of us who had that experience, and in coming into it. Now we want to ensure that experience for others. How do you get involved? There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different areas. Some of you have the white sheet, and we also have Muslims in our audience that listen to the program. There are several categories that you can help and be a part of the Shahadatain Institute. So if you want to be considered for any of these positions, I want to make you aware of them. There are administrative positions where you can join that group of individuals who are doing this planning and ensuring that the perpetuation of the Institute occurs and the success of the Institute occurs. And so there are coordination activities, working on the current plans. That is a role in the Shahadatain Institute. The Ansar Mentor, we talked about. You want to be an individual who provides one-on-one personal guidance and support to new Shahids, meaning people who have just taken Shahadatain during their 11-week orientation course, so that they'll be the person that you'll be in touch with while they're in this orientation class. Also, community host. Community host would be someone who greets especially new Muslims and first-time visitors and escorts them and assists them as necessary during their visit to Masjidul Waritheen activities. That is, when a new person comes, that person is responsible to make sure that that person doesn't feel isolated and alone while they're present with us. They can have their question answered and not have to feel guilty about looking at somebody else who looks friendly enough for me to talk to ask some questions. No, there's a community host that's their responsibility to seek you out. You don't have to seek them out. Also, da'wah. Da'wah is sending out the invitation. Now it's much more time since we have the Institute in place. Now it's more timely that we go out, invite people, come, because we have a class for them to learn everything they know about al-Islam. So if you want to be active in that, giving that public invitation, da'wah, then that's also a way to help the Shahadatain Institute. There's also much need for researchers. There's so many questions. We are new Muslims, and no one of us is smarter than all of us. So it requires all of us to add to the base of information in al-Islam regarding Shahadatain and all the other pillars of al-Islam. So if you want to just be a researcher to support the efforts of the Shahadatain Institute and the other 5 pillars, then you can become one of our researchers. Also, maybe you want to be a teacher. As a teacher, you would learn and you would deliver one of the Institute curriculum topics and provide substitute support as needed as one of the teachers in the Shahadatain Institute. These teachers are signed on to teach as long as they are available, but they're going to need understudies and they're going to need other people to take over the course as time goes on. So if you would like to be a teacher of one of those courses to help enrich the lives of some new person coming to al-Islam, then you may want to be a teacher. So these are ways that you can help with the Shahadatain Institute, and I would need one of the Shahadatain members from the Vision Committee or the other committee to go upstairs and get the sign-in sheet that we had from yesterday to make those slips available for anyone who may here today want to become a member in supporting the Shahadatain Institute. However, before that happens, we like to have the sister who's going to take the Shahadatain to come forward and join me at the front today. This will give the opportunity for our audience to witness this is all we mean when you take Shahadatain. This is what it means, and the Shahadatain Institute is designed to help advance this process for my sister after her taking or making this declaration. And even so, before doing that, I want to remind those of you who are watching and those of you who are witnessing here that it does not mean that you have to take Shahadatain before you can come to the classes. No. You can come to the classes before you take Shahadatain. This is just an opportunity for our audience to see what it means. How do you take Shahadatain? Real simple, real painless. Watch it. This is, please introduce yourself for the audience.
Rana Nabi.
This is Rana Nabi. And Rana, if you just step this way a little bit. What you would do, Rana, is you simply repeat after me. Just say what I say. I'm going to say it first. Say parts of it first in Arabic. Just repeat the sounds that you hear, and then I'll give you the English translation, which you will also repeat. You understand? Okay. Ashhadu
Ashhadu
an la
an la
ilaha
ilaha
illallah
illallah
wa
wa
ashhadu
ashhadu
anna
anna
Muhammadar
Muhammadar
Rasulullah.
Rasulullah.
I bear
I bear
open testimony
open testimony
without reservation or embarrassment,
without reservation or embarrassment,
that there is no God but Allah,
that there is no God but Allah,
and I bear
and I bear
open testimony
open testimony
without reservation or embarrassment
without reservation or embarrassment
that Muhammad
that Muhammad
is the messenger of Allah.
is the messenger of Allah.
Okay, that is Shahadatain. Now, there's one other thing that we're going to do. We make a short supplication. Supplication is a prayer that we're making on her entering Islam. If you just face me this way, you just place your hands in this man. Come a little closer. Okay, it's okay. Just place your hands in this vein. Okay, you don't need to say anything here. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم إذا جاء نصر الله والفتح ورأيت الناس يدخلون في الدين الله أفواجا فسبح بحمد ربك واستغفره إنه كان توابا آمين. And you just take your hands and place them over your face this way. Okay. Now that is not an absolute necessary part of the Shahadatain, but it's just a prayer that we're making. Speaking of people coming into the religion of Al-Islam, it represents something very, very important in the life of humanity. I want to congratulate Rana Nabi, and you can be among the first that enroll in our Shahadatain Institute classes. I hope you'll be able to join us. It is also not an obligation. Every Muslim doesn't have to, who comes here doesn't have to go to the Institute, but it's of great benefit, which I believe you've heard here today. So the first class is going to be August 6th. That's a Friday from 7 to 9 p.m. And it's going to take place in a room that we prepared over in behind the masjid here. And it's going to be open, so all of you have the opportunity to go and get a look at the Shahadatain Institute. Thank you and congratulations. Takbir. 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 Takbir means glorify God. It's sort of like, not to belittle it, but it's like hip hip. Hooray, hip hip, hooray. When we say takbir, it means glorify God. And we say Allahu Akbar, it means God is bigger, greater, and more important than anything. So we're grateful to that, and I got a surprise on my brother who's going to make this announcement right quick. We're going to say to our television audience, we thank you for joining us, and we hope and pray Allah that you have benefited by the testimonials and the information regarding the Shahadatain Institute. We are ready to receive you. Come on down. First class is August 6th. It'll last for 11 weeks on Fridays from 7 to 9 p.m. All the things you need to know about Al-Islam to give you the proper orientation to embrace Islam correctly and benefit by your own potential and the potential that God has provided in the world for you. We look forward to your joining us here at Masjidul Waritheen Shahadatain Institute. May the peace that only Allah can give be on you. Assalamu alaikum. Now, for you,